He thought it was just another routine traffic stop until a false arrest turned his world upside down. But what the officer didn't know was that the man she targeted had the power to expose everything. What started with handcuffs ended with a movement that shook an entire town to its core. It was just past 5 p.m. when Jamal Price pulled out of the grocery store parking lot in a quiet part of Albany, Georgia. The heat clung low to the asphalt, the air thick with late summer humidity and the scent of blooming magnolias. Jamal, a 42-year-old financial consultant from Denver, wasn't in town for business this time. He had flown in to visit his aunt, Miss Lorraine, who had raised him like a second mother after his own parents passed away. She wasn't doing well these days, her breath shorter, her steps slower, and Jamal hadn't been back in over a year. His flight landed that morning, and now, after picking up some groceries and her favorite peach preserves, he was ready to head home for a quiet evening. But fate had something else in mind. He noticed the police cruiser a few blocks back as he turned onto Jefferson Street. At first, he thought nothing of it. This was the South, after all, and black men noticing police cruisers was second nature. But when the squad car made every turn he did, right on Monroe, left on Patterson, Jamal's posture stiffened slightly. His hand stayed on 10 and 2. The air in the rental felt suddenly warmer. As he approached the stop sign, the lights behind him flared, red and blue against the golden hue of dusk. Jamal exhaled and pulled over without resistance, rolling down the window, placing his license on the dash, and setting both hands on the wheel. The sun caught the side mirror just right as the officer stepped out of her car. She was tall, late 40s maybe, with sharp features and mirrored sunglasses that hid her eyes. Officer Melissa Carver. Jamal had never seen her before, but the way she walked, slow, heavy, dominant, told him everything he needed to know. She was the type who liked control, who expected fear, and who wore her badge like armor and a weapon. "License and registration," she said curtly, standing just a bit too far back from the window. Her hand hovered near her holster, and Jamal didn't miss the tension in her stance. "Yes, ma'am," he replied calmly. "I'm reaching into the glove box now." His movements were deliberate, practiced. This wasn't his first time. It likely wouldn't be the last. He handed her the documents. She stared at them, then him. "You from around here?" "Not anymore. I live in Colorado now. I flew in this morning to visit my aunt. She's ill." "This a rental?" "Yes. I picked it up at the airport. Mind stepping out of the vehicle for me?" Her tone wasn't a question. Jamal hesitated for only a second, then complied. The pavement was hot under his shoes. She began circling him like he was something to be cataloged, a box to check. "You match the description of a suspect in a robbery that happened earlier today." Jamal blinked. "Excuse me?" "I said you match a description." "Stay where you are." "Ma'am, I've been with my aunt since 10 this morning. I only just left the house to get groceries. Didn't ask for your itinerary. Turn around and place your hands on the hood." Jamal stood still, incredulous. "Am I being detained?" "Turn around," she snapped, stepping closer. Her fingers brushed the cuffs on her belt. "Now." Jamal inhaled slowly, then turned and placed his palms flat on the hood. The car radiated heat under his skin. He kept his voice measured. "I'm a financial consultant. I've worked with major firms. I don't care if you work for NASA," she cut him off. "Keep quiet." She frisked him roughly, her hands quick and impersonal. "You think dressing like a businessman makes you innocent," she muttered. "You people always have a story." "I'm not resisting," he said, "mostly for the dashcam, if there even was one." She didn't respond. Moments later, he was in handcuffs. The metal bit into his wrists tighter than necessary. He didn't fight it. He didn't plead. He let the silence say what words couldn't. The back seat of the cruiser was cramped and smelled faintly of sweat and plastic. His phone buzzed in his pocket, probably Miss Lorraine wondering where he was. He thought of the preserves melting in the car, the smile she would have given him when he walked in the door. Instead, he was on his way to the station, arrested for matching a description that didn't exist. Inside the precinct, the air was cold, fluorescent, and indifferent. No one asked him anything meaningful. No one offered a phone call. They fingerprinted him, photographed him, shoved a clipboard in his hands like it was routine. Officer Carver sat at her desk, typing out her report with eerie calm. Her face showed no emotion as she wrote. Suspect displayed noncompliant behavior, raised voice, aggressive posture. Jamal sat on a metal bench in holding, hands aching, back against the cinder block wall. He didn't panic. He didn't pace. He strategized. He had built multi-million-dollar portfolios, navigated complex audits, and brokered international deals. He knew how to analyze systems, and now that skill was focused entirely on her. Officer Melissa Carver. The name echoed in his mind like a challenge. He closed his eyes and replayed every word, every movement, every shift in her tone. There was something practiced about her behavior, something too smooth to be spontaneous. He'd seen bad actors before. She wasn't impulsive, she was calculated. By midnight, he was still in the cell. No explanation. No update. No call. Just four walls, a buzzing light overhead, and the sound of a radio murmuring behind a locked door. He leaned back, closed his eyes, and made a decision: this wouldn't end here. Not this time. By morning, the door opened. A new officer stood there, clipboard in hand. You're being charged with obstruction and resisting arrest. Bail hearings this afternoon. Jamal nodded, already mentally reviewing his options. When they gave him one phone call, he used it wisely. He didn't call his aunt. He called Travis. Travis DeWitt. His old roommate from law school. Now a defense attorney in Atlanta with a reputation for dismantling weak charges. She picked the wrong man this time, Jamal said into the receiver. I need you here today. Travis didn't hesitate. I'm on my way. By the time the sun climbed high over Albany, the wheels of something bigger had already begun to turn. And for the first time in her career, Officer Melissa Carver was about to find out what it felt like when the system stared back at her and didn't blink. Travis DeWitt's tires hadn't touched Albany pavement in years, but when his phone buzzed just past midnight and Jamal's name appeared on the screen, he didn't hesitate. 3 hours later, he was driving under the dim orange haze of highway lamps, mind racing, jaw clenched. Jamal Price wasn't just an old friend, he was the kind of man who kept his head in rooms where others lost theirs, the kind of man who didn't cry wolf. If he was calling now, cuffed and confined in a small-town Georgia precinct, something had gone very wrong. Travis had known Jamal since law school, two sharp minds from two different corners of the country, bonded over late-night debates, case briefs, and a shared understanding of what it meant to be black men moving through a system that often viewed them as problems before people. Jamal had taken the private sector route, flying between time zones and polished shoes, building wealth and reputation. Travis stayed in the trenches, public defense, criminal reform, holding corrupt systems accountable from the inside out. So when he walked into the Albany Police Department just after dawn, briefcase in hand and tailored suit dusted with travel fatigue, he didn't need introductions. I'm here for Jamal Price, he said evenly. The officer at the desk, a younger man with a nervous twitch in his fingers, glanced at the logbook. He's being held for resisting. Save it, Travis cut in, his tone sharp enough to slice drywall. Get your supervisor. Within minutes, Jamal was released on bond. The ride from the station was quiet. Jamal sat in the passenger seat, his expression unreadable. When he finally spoke, it wasn't with anger, it was strategy. Her name is Melissa Carver. Officer. Late 40s. White. Confident. Too confident. Travis raised an eyebrow. You think she's done this before? I don't think, Jamal said. I know. Back at the guest room in his aunt's home, Jamal pulled out a yellow legal pad, already filled with notes from the night before. Timestamps. Phrases. Body language. She escalated for no reason. Claimed I matched a robbery suspect. No description given. Then arrested me for noncompliance after I asked why I was being detained. I never raised my voice. Never moved aggressively. Travis scanned the pad. And the report? Jamal nodded. You'll love it. He handed him the copy they'd given him at booking. Travis's eyes flicked across the page. The language was painfully familiar, standard boilerplate dressed in drama. Aggressive tone. Hesitated to comply. Appeared evasive. Travis scoffed. She's done this before. This is too rehearsed. He sat back, rubbing his temples. We need a local angle. Someone inside the courthouse. Someone who knows where the skeletons are buried. Jamal didn't blink. Valencia Brooks. Travis turned. Who's that? Court clerk. Grew up here. We went to church together as kids. She sees everything. She won't talk to me. But she might talk to you. That afternoon, Travis walked into the courthouse like he belonged there. His badge clipped visibly, tie loosened just enough to seem disarming. Valencia Brooks met him just past the metal detectors. She was 39, sharp-eyed, and wore her authority like armor. I don't talk to defense attorneys, she said flatly. Even ones who walk like they own the place. I'm not here as a defense attorney, Travis replied. I'm here as a black man asking why the same story keeps getting written over and over, with the same villain and the same silent chorus. Her expression shifted, just slightly. You said the officer's name was Carver? Travis nodded. Valencia hesitated, then glanced around and motioned for him to follow. In a back office, behind a locked door and thick blinds, she pulled out a folder from a locked drawer. It was thick. Yellowed edges. Paper clips. Handwritten notes. 5 years, she said quietly. 5 years of dockets, complaints, hearings. Same officer. Same phrasing. Same targets. All black? Travis asked. She nodded. Every last one. Why hasn't anyone done anything? Because the system's built to forget, she said. And most people don't have the strength or the resources to fight it. Well, Travis said, this one does. They reviewed the cases. 2 in particular stood out. One was Henry McAllister, 68, a retired high school teacher. Pulled over for a taillight. Ended up in cuffs after failing to comply. No video, no recourse, no justice. The other was Darnell Reed, 38, a warehouse worker. Stopped for an expired tag. Officer Carver claimed he reached for something. He didn't. He still walks with a limp from the takedown. Neither man had pressed charges. One didn't have the money. The other didn't believe it would make a difference. But now there was a pattern. And Travis knew how to weaponize patterns. He filed the request for the dashcam footage that same day. The department dragged its feet, of course. Claimed it was under review. Cited procedural backlog. But Travis was relentless. He filed a motion with the judge overseeing the misdemeanor docket. And when that didn't move fast enough, he called in a favor from an investigative journalist he'd helped 2 years ago in Atlanta. Run a background check on Officer Melissa Carver. I need to know who protects her and why. By the end of the week, everything was moving. Fast. Henry McAllister agreed to submit an affidavit. So did Darnell Reed. Valencia quietly passed Travis a memo, dated 2 years prior, recommending Officer Carver undergo de-escalation training. The recommendation was ignored. When the dashcam footage finally landed in Travis's inbox late Sunday evening, he watched it 3 times. It was worse than he'd imagined. Jamal never raised his voice. Never made sudden moves. His hands were visible the entire time. Officer Carver pushed him against the car with force that was clearly unnecessary. The report was a lie. And now, Travis had proof. Monday morning. Courthouse packed. Preliminary hearing. Jamal sat at the defense table, calm as ever. Officer Carver wore her uniform like a shield, her jaw tight, eyes forward. Judge Elkins reviewed the motion for suppression. Travis stood. Your Honor, this footage contradicts the written report in material and disturbing ways. It shows a compliant citizen, not an aggressor. It shows a man being detained without cause. The judge leaned back. We'll view it now. The room dimmed as the footage played. No voiceover. No music. Just the raw sound of injustice. When it ended, you could hear the air conditioning hum. The judge looked at Officer Carver. Is this accurate? A pause. Her lips twitched. Not exactly, Your Honor. Did the defendant resist? Not physically, she said. The words hung like a confession. Travis spoke again. We now have 2 prior affidavits, Your Honor. Same officer. Same language. Same pattern. The judge nodded. Case is continued. Charges are being reviewed. Outside, reporters waited. Inside, Officer Carver's face had turned ghost white. And Jamal? He hadn't moved. Not an inch. Because he knew the reckoning had just begun. The courthouse doors swung open to the blinding noon light as reporters surged forward, microphones and cameras trained on Jamal Price. Just minutes earlier, a courtroom full of stunned silence had watched dashcam footage that stripped every word from Officer Melissa Carver's report of its authority. Her voice had cracked under questioning. Her gaze, once sharp and certain, had dropped to the floor as the video played frame by frame, Jamal standing still, cooperative, calm, never once raising his voice, never resisting. The lie had unraveled in real time. Now, as Jamal walked down the courthouse steps beside Travis DeWitt, his old friend turned defender, the noise of the press was almost white static to him. He had waited for this moment not with vengeance in his heart, but with a weight lifted. The truth had been seen, not just told. But what no one realized yet, not the cameras, not the crowd, not even Officer Carver, was that this moment wasn't the end. It was the ignition. Within 48 hours, the footage went viral. A local reporter posted it with the headline "Man Arrested for Existing While Black," and within hours, it caught fire online. Regional news outlets picked it up, then national ones. Travis received 5 interview requests before breakfast. Jamal declined every one. He hadn't spoken to the press, hadn't posted online, hadn't held a sign. He let the truth speak for itself. The town of Albany, Georgia, split like dry timber. Some clung to Officer Carver's story even after the footage aired, citing stress, confusion, excuses. Others, many others, saw what had always been there but never caught on tape, a system that justified its own misconduct until it couldn't anymore. The mayor, facing mounting pressure from community leaders, ordered a full internal review of Officer Carver's traffic stops dating back 10 years. Whispers became open testimonies. Names surfaced. Faces appeared. A teacher. A warehouse worker. A grocery delivery driver. A single mother pulled. Over 5 times in a single year. All black. All charged with minor infractions that had escalated unnecessarily. All silenced, until now. Officer Carver was placed on administrative leave. Within a week, that became an unpaid suspension. By the time the city's review confirmed a pattern of disproportionate stops and fabricated charges, she was quietly removed from the force. No public statement. No apology. Just gone. But Jamal stayed. He didn't return to Denver. He extended his stay at his aunt's home. He met with Valencia Brooks at a diner on a rainy Wednesday and told her he had an idea. He met with Pastor Reggie from the Southside Baptist Church, who opened his basement fellowship hall without hesitation. That following Tuesday, 20 folding chairs were set up in a circle. Jamal called it the Visibility Project. He opened that first session with just 10 people in the room. This isn't a place to talk about anger, he told them. This is a place to talk about knowledge. Because knowing your rights is the first step to keeping your dignity. He showed dashcam footage. Not just his. Others. He explained legal processes in plain language. How to respond during a traffic stop. How to document. How to file complaints. How to request records. Word spread. By week 4, the room was standing room only. He moved sessions to the community center. By week 6, a group of teenagers started arriving early to help him set up. One of them, 17-year-old Malik, asked him, "You ever think about quitting? About just letting it go?" Jamal looked at him, his expression soft but unwavering. "All the time," he said. "But if I had, she'd still be wearing that badge." Travis visited once a week, often staying late to help review case documents for community members seeking to reopen old citations. Valencia brought old logs. The mayor even stopped by quietly, in the back row, nodding along. What started as a story became a platform. And what became a platform began to evolve into a movement. Across town, real change took root. The city council passed a motion requiring body cam and dash cam footage be preserved for at least 2 years and made accessible to defendants within 14 days of arrest. Officer training on de-escalation and bias was mandated. A civilian review board, something community advocates had begged for years, was finally approved. Jamal wasn't looking for credit. He didn't want awards or headlines. But every time someone approached him with a folder in their hands and uncertainty in their eyes, he gave them time. Every Tuesday. Every week. Without fail. Officer Carver, meanwhile, had quietly left Georgia. Her house sold fast. Her cruiser, once parked proudly outside the department, was gone within a month. Her name faded from local news, but not from memory. The truth had been seen, and seen truths don't get forgotten easily. One Sunday afternoon, Jamal walked through the neighborhood where he'd grown up. The sidewalks were cracked, the porches aged, but the spirit was still alive. Miss Lorraine waved from her rocking chair, a glass of sweet tea in her hand, her smile proud. "You turned the whole town on its head, baby," she said. He chuckled. "Wasn't me. It was the camera." She narrowed her eyes playfully. Camera don't work without a man brave enough to stand still. That night, Jamal sat with a notebook open beside the window. Not business plans. Not legal briefs. Ideas. Outreach to neighboring counties. Spanish language sessions. Youth mentorship programs. He'd become more than the man arrested without cause. He had become the man who showed others they didn't have to be afraid of being seen. Months later, the Visibility Project expanded to 2 more towns in Georgia. One of Jamal's former students, Malik, started leading sessions of his own. Travis returned to Atlanta but remained on call anytime Jamal needed backup. Valencia now worked as a liaison between the courts and the community board, a job created specifically because someone like her had proven that the right person in the right place can change everything. Jamal never reclaimed the time stolen from him in that traffic stop. But he transformed it into something far greater than vindication. He gave people something they hadn't had in years, permission to hope. At the final session of the year, someone asked him if he had one message for people outside Albany, for those watching the story from afar, who maybe didn't believe it could happen to them. Jamal smiled, slow and steady, and said, "The system counts on our silence. So speak. Speak even if your voice shakes. Because truth doesn't need permission. It just needs someone brave enough to say it out loud." And in Albany, Georgia, thanks to one man who refused to disappear quietly, the truth was finally louder than the lie. In writing this story, I didn't just want to highlight a single injustice, I wanted to show how one moment, one decision to not stay silent, can ripple outward and change everything. Jamal Price's story isn't just about wrongful arrest. It's about the courage to stand your ground when the system expects you to fold. It's about choosing to respond not with rage, but with resilience. Too often in America, especially in small towns and quiet neighborhoods, abuse of power hides in plain sight. And it thrives not because no one sees it, but because those who see it are told to look away. But what happens when someone refuses? What happens when one man says, "No, not this time"? That's what Jamal did. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't retaliate. He simply stood still and told the truth. And when that truth was backed up by undeniable evidence, it didn't just clear his name, it exposed a pattern, empowered a community, and sparked reform. Here's the lesson: systems don't change on their own. They change when people challenge them, calmly, clearly, and consistently. Not everyone has a camera running when injustice strikes. Not everyone has a lawyer friend on speed dial. But everyone has a voice. And that voice matters. Whether you're a teenager learning your rights for the first time, or a retired teacher who's been silenced too long, your story is powerful. Speak it. Share it. Let it be seen. And if you ever find yourself in Jamal's shoes, faced with disrespect, stripped of dignity, remember this: you don't have to shout to be heard. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is stand still, stay calm, and let the truth do the heavy lifting. Because when one person refuses to be invisible, it gives others permission to be seen. On behalf of U.S. Instructive Stories, I want to thank you for listening, for thinking deeply, and for caring about stories that challenge us to be better. If this story moved you, if it made you reflect or opened your eyes in a new way, I invite you to share it with your friends, your community, your family. Let it spark a conversation. Because that's how change begins, not with noise, but with honest, human stories. And to those out there who are still waiting to be seen, we see you. We hear you. And your voice matters more than you know.